Good morning and welcome back. This week we are going to talk about mistakes that people make, common mistakes in training and racing in triathlon. I'm going to talk about training mistakes first, and the second half of the video we'll talk about racing mistakes. So in training, one of the biggest mistakes people make is not getting to open water to practice in open water. You'll see this at a lot of races. People get to the swim, whether it's an ocean, a lake, a river. They haven't been practicing, they panic, they freak out, and they are pulled out of the race. So if you are getting ready for an open water swimming event, you have to get to open water to practice. It's a different environment than the pool. The second part of that is practicing in a wetsuit. If you're going to be in a wetsuit legal race and you plan to use a wetsuit, you need to make sure that the wetsuit that you have is comfortable. They're snug. They're not supposed to be super tight. You want to be able to breathe, right? So make sure you practice in your wetsuit. You can practice in the pool in the wetsuit. Don't worry about what anybody else says. It's okay. Biggest mistakes by far. Next mistake is a lack of consistency. So whether you're training for a sprint triathlon or an Ironman, the improvement that you will make is brought about by being consistent. You cannot afford to train a week, miss a week, train a week, miss a week. You're just never going to really progress if you do that. So when you decide to train for an endurance event like a triathlon, try to time it at a point in your life where you can make a commitment to being consistent, right? We don't want to do it when we have 17 friends getting married, or we have a, terrifically big project at work. You want to exercise and stay fit and all that, but try to time your big training blocks at a time of your life where you can actually commit to doing that. The next big mistake is gear issues. So we want to make sure that we have a bike that works well. We want to make sure that we're in running shoes that are appropriate for our feet, right? If you've heard of pronation, supination, so you need to make sure that your gear is working well for you. Also, maintaining your bike is a big one. So you want that bike to work well throughout your training as well as in the race. Bike fit is another issue. So riding a bike is more than just hopping on the next bike you see. When you get a little more serious about triathlon training, there's some issues with bike fit. We want to make sure that we're comfortable, but also riding at good power, right? And aerodynamics. So it's power, aerodynamics, and comfort where the three intersect to have a perfect fit for you. And everybody's different. Your flexibility is different than your neighbor's. So you need to work with somebody ideally to figure out what your best bike fit is. Jumping around from trend to trend. So, a lot of you have probably heard of like the 80-20. You've heard of high volume, low effort. You've probably heard of lower volume, higher effort. So you don't want to switch week to week and month to month on training philosophies. Your best bet, even if the training philosophy doesn't work out the best for you, it's best to stick with one philosophy through a season, right, before we switch. Now, of course, if you run into something where it's just not working at all, that's a different story. But switching philosophy midweek, mid-month, things like that, not a good idea. So stick with one approach, right? And that would work with the consistency aspect of things. Got to put my glasses on. I can't read this list. Oh, nutrition. So nutrition is a big issue, right? Not only our daily habits of nutrition, but our timing of nutrition, like making sure that we get recovery drinks after big workouts, things, making sure that we stay hydrated on a daily basis. If we get dehydrated, chronic dehydration makes training harder, leads to higher chance of injury, things like that. Same with the timing and nutrition, making sure that you have a couple hundred calories after your big workouts within an hour of finishing. Don't starve yourself trying to get skinny when your body needs fuel. Sleep and recovery. So sleep, super important. The easiest way to repair our muscles, not getting enough sleep, is another big mistake people make in endurance racing and training. We have a lot of motivated athletes. I get to see a lot of their files, and I see how little some of you sleep. You need to get over 6 hours, right? 7, 8, 9 hours is better, especially when you're getting into Ironman training and racing. But at least try to get 6 a night if you can. It makes a big difference. And then taking recovery periods, recovery days, as well as recovery weeks. So that's another issue for motivated athletes where they feel like they don't need to recover. They can train hard all the time. That's not how it works. Recovery is part of training. Resting is part of training. Oh, okay, let's move on to racing. So mistakes people make in racing. Not practicing your race plan enough. That is a big one. So the longer the race is, the more practice you need at pace so that you understand how it's going to feel, so you're aware of the discomfort. So the easiest examples here are, let's say you're doing a sprint triathlon, 10-mile bike, 3-mile run. A handful of times in the lead up to that, you should be biking, warm up 4 or 5 miles, then bike 7 or 8 miles hard, hop off the bike and run 10 or 20 minutes hard, right? So you are at close to race pace, so that when you get to the race, it's not a surprise at how uncomfortable it is. The same goes for Ironman. Now, you don't have to rehearse an entire Ironman distance. That would be pretty crazy, but it would be good to do an 80 or 90 mile bike with a lot of that at your Ironman goal pace, and then run 8 to 10 miles a couple times in training so that you are prepared for those sorts of distances and how, the management of that effort feels, as well as all the nutrition that goes into something like that. Starting too fast. Super easy to do, whatever the distance might be. Starting out too hard, trying to keep up with somebody, you're blowing through all your thresholds right at the beginning. You're going to burn a bunch of muscle glycogen. It's going to create issues later in the race. So we want to manage our efforts. The longer the distance is, the more critical this part is, right? So in a sprint, you can recover more or less from this. In an Olympic distance, you can kind of recover from it. Half Ironman, you start out too hard on any leg, whatever the leg is, it's going to be a problem at some point in the race. So just don't do that. Forgetting your nutrition and hydration plan. So if you've been super meticulous in your training and you said, I know I'm going to have a gel every 45 minutes, I'm going to consume 24 ounces of fluid every hour, and then the first hour of the bike goes by and you're so happy and excited to be in this great race, you forget to eat and drink. Again, that's going to create a problem in these longer races. So you need to be on it from the get-go, have your watch beeping at you, have some reminder so that you know what you're doing. Gear issues. More than once, I know people who wound up at a race with one of those electronic bikes and the battery died in the race. This is terrible. Don't let this happen to you. Make sure everything is good to go. Make sure your gears are working well. Make sure that the gearing you have on your bike is appropriate for the terrain that you're in. We don't want to have giant gears when all we're doing is climbing, right? You need some bailout gears. So make sure that that's all set prior to getting to the race. Wasting time in transition. Why are you sitting down and having a conversation with your friend in transition in the race? Unless you don't care about your time. That's a different story. Go for it. Have a great time. But if we're looking at time, you don't need to be in transition for 15 or 20 minutes. Get in and get out. Practice this. Rehearse it in training. That's what practice is for, right? I don't know. I don't know what's happening sometimes when I look at those. And then overall pace management. So again, the longer the race is, the more you need to be aware of what your heart rate is doing, what your power is at, what your effort level is, however you want to look at it, but you need to be aware continuously. So there should be, you are in the moment throughout the entirety of these races. The longer it is, the higher level of goals that you have, the more you need to be aware, right? So if you are looking to win your age group or qualify for Kona, you got to be 100% on top the entire race. We cannot afford to space out, right? So those are some of the common mistakes people make in training and racing. Hopefully there's another helpful video for you over here. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.